awesome. What I wanted to do today is I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce a friend of mine, Nate Doggett, one of the founders of eDirector. I'm going to let him kind of talk a little bit further about the product and maybe get a little more in depth here and show us what it looks like.
Sure, I appreciate it. Just a quick overview. I was a finance director for 15 years. I was always looking for a better way to manage our lenders. We would typically use 5 to 10 lenders and have good relationships with them, but then we'd have access to 40 or 50 between Cuddle and DealerTrack and Route One. And anytime, I had a deal that didn't fit structure-wise with my handful of preferred lenders, I always found it difficult to figuring out which one to go with. So what we do in a nutshell is we take every lender that a dealership has access to through DealerTrack, Route One, Cuddle. We take all the rate sheets, all the guidelines, and all their structures, and we load it into our system. And then based on the structure of the deal, we show the user a snapshot of every lender before you submit it. So you know that you're submitting it at the right term and the right advance, more likely maybe to get an auto approval on some of the tougher deals. But more than anything, not just shotgunning a customer to a bunch of lenders, especially when half of them don't have any chance of buying it in the first place. So
Do me a favor, if you wouldn't mind, how difficult is it to show us an example of that?
Pretty simple. We tie into the dealership CRM. So really all you have to do is put in the customer's phone number or name. It's going to pull everything over from the CRM. It's going to pull over their zip code, which is going to be extremely important when we're dealing with credit unions, especially. You have your credit scores here. We have a spot for first-time buyer programs where we can identify which lenders have first-time buyers. If you need a co-applicant, we'll talk about bankruptcy and I-10 in a second. We could show 90 days till first payment. Even lenders that allow structural damage on vehicles, if you're ever selling that type of a vehicle. The sales price, tax, title, license, all that's going to pull over from the structure. We're also tied into vAuto, so we pull the vehicle into the system, which is going to populate the book values for JD as well as Blue Book. If it was a new vehicle, we'd have MSRP or invoice. So you can see there's very little input that's needed from the user. It's very quick.
I see you got a VSC maintenance and gap box. How does that functionality work?
Sure. So starting off, if the desk were the ones that were using this, it's going to not have a service contract or anything pre-sold. We do identify here on our lenders what the back-end advance would be, how much they allow in back-end and how much they allow for each of their products. But let's say you had it sold already and you had a service contract for $3,500, maintenance for $1,500, and gap for $999. What that's going to do is it's going to identify which lenders you have that you can sell, everything on the term that we're looking at. 2018 with 68,000 miles to a customer that lives at this zip code with this credit score, looking at 72 months with no money down, an out the door of $38,000 and a front end of 33. We have 11 lenders in this situation that would qualify for everything without any exceptions needing to be made. If we bump it to 75 months, we go from 11 down to 6 lenders. If we try to go 84 months, we can see that it bumps all the way down to 4 lenders. So you can kind of play around with the sliders to kind of figure out where your sweet spot is. Maybe if we had a little bit more money down, instead of 6 lenders, now we've got 11.
So does the finance person then, or sales manager who's using the tool, do they have the ability to sort this then based on back end profit, based on payment? Like what are the parameters for that?
Sure. We automatically sort by profit first, so reserve or flats based on markup. But everything's sortable. You could say who's going to let me sell gap for the most, or who will let me sell maintenance at the highest amount, or who's going to give me the biggest front end advance. Everything's clickable. If you want to see who's going to give me the lowest rates, we can click on rate, whatever you want to do. So yeah, everything is fully sortable. In this case, you can see Northwest Federal Credit Union. If you hover the name of the lender, it shows the requirements for going there, where these first 2 are national lenders, where this next one is anywhere in Washington State or certain counties in Idaho or Oregon. So you can kind of play around with that. Maybe you're not familiar with this lender. They're a lender in Cuddle. If you click on it, it goes directly to their rate sheet. We update the rate sheets 3 times a week through DealerTrack, Route One, and Cuddle, so you'll have the most up-to-date information right at your fingertips.
Okay.
So the days of the 3-ring binder with the bank book and the bank Bible and And trying to keep all that up to date are few and far between now.
Okay, that's huge.
This identifies what the rate is. You can see these first two lenders have multiple rates because as you mark up the rate, you go from a flat and your reserve and flats start to get bigger as you mark the rate up to 2 points here, 2 points here. It identifies what credit bureau is used depending on where the customer lives, if they allow credit surfing or not. So in this case, they'll allow you to use any of the 3 bureaus. We're telling them to make sure when you submit it, you identify that the TransUnion was your highest bureau. Payment
So this is going to be a great tool for, in essence, a couple different people, right? So you have somebody that's new to finance that maybe doesn't understand the bank programs very well. This is going to guide them into which one's going to make the most sense based on the scenario.
Absolutely.
Now, the other side of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is going to be the experienced finance guy that maybe is got a niche, right? They have 3 or 4 or 5 banks that they're accustomed to using.
Yep.
And of those 3 or 4 or 5 banks, maybe they're not thinking about 1 or 2 that ultimately may have a better program or a more profitable scenario. So this would be a good tool for them to see that, correct?
Yeah, especially if you've got a weird deal. Maybe you've got a customer who's got a 800, a 700 TransUnion, but their Equifax and Experian are 650 below, and you've got JD Power is a good book, KBB's not. You need 84 months on a 7-year-old vehicle. You're only financing 20 grand, and the guy lives in Idaho. There's probably a perfect credit union out there somewhere for that guy. Where maybe your national lenders wouldn't typically qualify. So yeah, that's and a lot of dealerships use it on the desk as a desking tool as well to figure out structure wise, front end advance, back end advance. Can I pencil this person at 84 months or 72 or 75? We take all of the lenders that qualify. We show what the average rate is for that customer, so the desk manager has a good starting place when they're trying to figure out how to pencil that deal to get a commitment to move it into finance. More and more dealerships, it seems like, are having the desk submit the deals. So if that's the case, then I definitely think the desk would be the ones who would be utilizing that program. So,
okay, awesome.
So as we're moving across here, speaking of back end advance, you can see we've got just about $6,000 worth of back end products pre-sold. That shows the back end advance here. If it's in green, you're good to go. So Northwest Federal will do $6 grand. I've actually got $1 left, and their only guideline is $1,500 in gap. Where Commerce Bank, I could actually sell $945 more on the back, but I can only sell my gap for $900. So you can kind of see where you can play around and identify which of these lenders is going to give you. Where Hapo, I can do $1,600 more on the back end. I can sell my service contract for up to $5 grand, more on my maintenance, more on my gap.
Okay.
Columbia Credit Union, perfect example. I sold my gap for $999, but as you can see here, their max is $995. So if I were to send that in without making that adjustment, there's a good chance that they'd make me rewrite that contract because they won't short fund the deal for $4.
Right.
Now that's going to affect my CITs, possibly a cancellation or chargeback. Bringing the customer back in anytime is never good. So, could end up being a CSI issue. Who knows? But all over a $4 error because I wasn't sure how much I could sell my gap for.
Right. Awesome.
Front end advance, we're going to identify how much is allowed on the front end. Once again, if we're in the red, we're $60 over advance on the front. This is going to identify that they use 130% of JD Power, and it has to be an out the door. TTL has to be included in that.
Now, is there a way that the manager selects one of these lenders and then it'll roll or adjust the figures based on what they need to be, or how does that work?
No, I mean, what you identify in this case, if I had to, if I got $60 more down, now that lender is going to be, let's sort back on our rate again here. Whoops. So now I can see that now that I've adjusted, my lender is back in line.
Gotcha.
This would be a plus call, so it takes math out of the equation for you. This one identifies that, hey, this is a plus call, back end only. TTL has to be included, but they will also look at Blue Book. So, in a lot of parts of the country, if they'll allow you to pull a Blue Book, maybe JD Power NADA is the standard. But if you find a lender that you can use Blue Book, we find that nationwide, Blue Book's about $1,800 higher. So that's a big plus.
Gotcha.
From there, we identify the flat, what it is at buy rate as you mark it up. how the flat is adjusted, or reserve if you're allowed to hold points. We identify that as well. From there, you can submit to Route 1 or to Dealer Track if that's a lender option.
And that's
Maybe
fully,
you're go ahead.
that's fully integrated right there.
Yes, sir. Yep. Just
Okay.
click it. It pushes everything over from the CRM, pushes everything over from eDirector, and everything over from vAuto. So when you go to submit the deal, it's extremely quick. You might have to put in, how long they've been at their job, or what their mortgage payment is if you didn't collect that in the CRM. But whatever's collected in the CRM will push over as well. So
Awesome.
it is extremely quick. Another tool that is utilized, maybe not so much by finance, maybe more by the desk, depending on how involved finance is, would be our ability to search the inventory. So you could take this structure, knowing you've got a customer that lives here, has, looks like we got $8,000 in negative equity. We got a little bit of money down, but a bunch of back-end products sold. So we could come in here and change our vehicle. And let's say this customer gives us a target payment of $750, and they say they have to have an SUV. Well, we could search our inventory for every vehicle that we have in stock that we can sell for a $750 payment based on these parameters, what the payment's going to be, or other vehicles that we have, that we can sell, how much more money we need down, how many days in stock those vehicles have been, what the profitability is going to be based on what we're selling it for versus our cost. And then from there, we can determine what vehicle to put them in. Or for finance, maybe you're working this deal and Ally says, hey, we'll give you $600 max payment. It has to be on an 18 or newer. Customer says it has to be an SUV, and Ally says you have to be at 120% max out the door. So then we can search, and it's going to show once again which vehicles we have in stock that we can sell for $600 or less, how much room we have at the 120 LTV, identifies other vehicles that were off on the payment, or other vehicles that the payment works, but the LTV is off. So very similar to like how Cap One has their Dealer Navigator, but Dealer Navigator only works with vehicles that qualify for Cap One, where here we're looking at all of the lenders we have to figure out how many of them qualify based on that vehicle. So it's multiple lenders, select it, and you can pull it in. So,
and then again, I'm guessing at the top, you can sort again based on payment, based on profit, based on back end.
Exactly. Yep. Whatever the customer's trigger is, or maybe it's just a matter of who's going to give me the biggest front end advance and get this guy bought. So
is the age of the vehicle a sort functionality also, or no?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, although typically the vehicle gets pulled in from vAuto, so it's automatically going to populate. But yeah, you can change it if you want, and if you want to get rid of the and override the vAuto. So if you're just kind of playing around, just trying to figure out what you've got in stock that would work, you can do that.
Okay.
But
Awesome.
typically you would do that through the search inventory. You can come in here and search inventory, and that's just going to give you, all of your inventory right at your fingertips anyway.
That's awesome.
And last thing I'll show you guys is, not everybody's an 800 credit score. Maybe this customer looks a little more familiar. You got a 500 credit score, 496, 467. We don't necessarily even have them on a vehicle yet. We're just trying to figure out if we have anything at all we can do with this customer. Maybe we submit it to a couple of different places. We get nothing but turn downs. We can come in here to the rehash tool. And the rehash tools is going to allow us to dig in deeper on the subprime. We got 5 trade lines, been on the bureau for a couple of years. He's got a dismissed bankruptcy from 2 years ago. He at least has a social and valid driver's license. This one's good. We got an open auto. We got a charge off from January. Had a good Christmas, I hope. Had past due child support. He's self-employed, personal bank statements. We did create this income calculator that you can utilize. Maybe the customer says I make $20 an hour, but I only get 39 hours a week, so they don't have to pay me any benefits or whatever. Or, you've got year-to-date pay stubs or less than a year on the job pay stubs, just a check, whatever the case is. We can figure out what that actually means and what their actual income is.
Okay.
Which is going to affect DTI and PTI, which we'll talk about in a minute. Let's say we've got some disability. We gross that up automatically. We figure up your rent, mortgage, other obligations. That's going to automatically show your DTI, PTI. And then when we do our search, now what we're looking at is going to be red flags and green flags. We're not necessarily worried about who's going to be the most profitable or whatever. It's more just who's going to most likely buy this customer. So in this case, yeah, we're probably gonna have to cut our back end a little bit or whatever the case is, but at least we got a car deal. So looking at Exeter, I've got 9 green flags. My DTI, I'm at 82%, which is their max. My PTI is at 19, they'll do up to 20. My income's good, everything's good except for self-employed. They will allow self-employed if I have bank statements for 3 months, funding charge is going to be $350, or a year tax return with Schedule C. They don't do just the bank statements, but we showed how to get around that. Where ACA, my PTI is good. Their issue is going to be with the bank statements. Maybe you think this is a Santander deal when you look at it, but as you dig a little bit deeper, you see that, well, I'm over on my DTI by a couple percent. So, maybe this customer needs to have some income found, rental income.
What do you got going on a cap 1 there with 2 red flags?
Yeah, no down payment. They're not going to do the bank statements. I mean, they're probably not going to buy a 500 credit score anyway, but we can at least show you how to get that in line.
Gotcha.
One main financial, we're showing, hey, their minimum FICO is 524, so they're going to be out. CPS, I'm going to need more money down. I'm over on my DTI. So it just kind of gives you an idea on how to get these deals structured correctly so that they might, potentially be, AmeriCredit deal, whatever the case is. So,
it's going to save you from sending it to a bunch of lenders that, really don't want to look at the deal in the first place.
Exactly. It's going to help you look to book. It's also going to help the customer by you not, obviously they're in a bad shape already. Let's not shotgun their credit 20 more times and give them 20 more inquiries to lower them even more from, you got to work pretty hard to get to a 467. Let's not help them out.
I got you. All right. Awesome. Real quick, Nate, the system's awesome. Is there anything else you want to go over real quick or?
I think that's it. We're in the process of doing some digital retail stuff that we'll be rolling out here pretty soon. But this is just it's a tool that a lot of different spots in the dealership can utilize. It's not going to cost you any money. We typically see a $400 increase in PVR on deals that are ran through eDirector versus deals that aren't. 0.7 products per deal, 5% service contract increase. It's a monthly subscription. There's no long-term, restrictions. It's month to month. Low input, less than $1,000 a month, and I definitely would love the opportunity to work with as many people as possible, help out anybody. You can always get a hold of me on Facebook. Shoot me a message. I'm more than happy to help out on onesie twosie deals here and there if you're trying to find a customer.
If somebody was to look up your website,
10 or something. What's that?
If somebody wanted to get some more information on this, and I'll try to put this in the link when I post this, but what's the website they would go to?
It's going to be www.edirectorllc.com.
Awesome. And then if somebody wanted to have a demo, I'm sure you would carve out some time to go through the program with them as well.
Absolutely. Prefer to do everything via Zoom as much as we can. Very, very flexible on timing. Just, give me 15, 20 minutes of time. We can do a quick demo. We can also help to, something else we do is help identify lenders. So if you're, you're trying to find some new lenders for your store, it's definitely something that we can help with based on zip code to identify, if there's subprime or different, different parameters for different lenders. We can help you to find some lenders that might be ones that you could add to your portfolio. Whether it's by zip code or by credit scores or ratings or years of the vehicles, that's something else that we can do that I'm more than happy to help out with for anybody on the site.
Awesome. All right. Well, cool. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you as well, man. And look forward to seeing you soon.